Hi everyone, it's Penny. I'm an astrologer, and today I'm here to talk to you about Venus in Libra. Now, Venus stays relatively close to the sun, but it might not necessarily be the same as your sun sign. So make sure you have looked at a natal chart calculator before you assume that just because you're a Libra, and that's your star sign, that your Venus sign is also Libra. Venus is the planet of love and relationships, and Libra is the sign of relationships and how we balance things out with other people. So Libra has this idea of how they think relationships should be, and they don't necessarily know what is fair and balanced, and they have trouble making up their mind about it. Like, is what society tells us really correct? Is what my peers tell me really correct? Like, where am I supposed to be? What am I actually supposed to do to have this perfect relationship? So they're a little bit rigid in their thinking. And the one thing they don't usually think about, or a lot of times overlook on accident, is following their hearts. Now, there might be this little side of them that's arguing, oh, I feel like I should really be in love. I feel like I shouldn't be pressured to get married or anything. But they're always like trying to balance out the scale, and it's kind of an ongoing battle in their head. And a lot of times, if they're paying attention to one aspect of a relationship, like the commitment, the formality, the papers, making it official, then they'll kind of start to forget about the other aspect of the relationship, you know, having the emotions there and having your heart in it. But then other times they'll be all heart and then no actual foundation. They do a pretty good job of staying level-headed, but I think a lot of times their partners can have some frustration because Libra always wants to be the one to decide what's fair and what isn't and how things actually should be. So you might just kind of feel like, almost like your partner is a little bit bossy if you're dating someone with Venus in Libra. And they're not even upfront about being bossy. They're not obvious about it, but it's kind of just like they decide which way the relationship's going to be and how it's going to go. And there's like no other room for input really. And you're just there. You're their partner. And they will come into it with a plan, and their plan will be decided based on things like their age, you know, what they've already been through in life and where they feel like they're at emotionally, you know, just what kind of relationship they are looking for. And they come into it with this expectation, and they don't really have a written out plan, but they already know what they want from you from the first encounter. And they have different phases that they may be at, so I'm going to go through all of those in the video. But one good thing about them, I think, is they're good at making it obvious where their partner stands and what the actual intention is. Now, when it comes to courting someone with Venus in Libra, they are going to be making all of these calculations in their head about whether or not you two are equals and whether or not you're capable of having a fair partnership. They will compare things like income, how attractive they perceive themselves as being, and how attractive they think you are. To a lesser extent, they will also ask questions like, where are we both on the status quo? Like, you know, what kind of job you have, what kind of ranking do you have in society? Are you from a wealthy family? Are you from a rough background? Are you a nerd? Am I a cheerleader? You know, comparing all kinds of things like that. So if it's like, oh, cool, we're both nerds of average income from middle-class families, it's like, this is perfect. I will see your mental disability and raise you one unemployment. And they're probably going to go so far as to ask for other people's opinions on you as well, really right from the get-go, because they don't want to make a decision about who they're going to date without their friends' input. And they really take to heart what their friends say. Getting their friends' opinions is very important. They want the blessing, encouragement, and positive reinforcement from their friends and family. A lot of times, even if it's just for a one-night stand, like, you know, they're going to try to bring their friends along for drinks or something, be like, hey, is she hot? Do you think she's hot? You think she's hot enough for a one-night stand? Or like, seriously, like, weird. Now, this kind of depends on whether or not they are a conformist, but they tend to seek out what other people of their age and gender are looking for. So if they're an 18-year-old girl, then they're probably looking for like the first part of the Notebook where they're like all like kissing in the rain or something. I don't know. I haven't watched the Notebook in a long time. I don't remember. But they were like teenagers and they were dating, right? So they want like a romantic teenager dating thing where you're just so in love and you don't know if you'll ever see each other again or something. I don't know. If they're a 24-year-old female, I would say they're probably starting to look for the right person to settle down with. And if they're 30 and still single and, haven't been married or haven't had a successful relationship, then they're probably getting a little bit distressed at this point, like comparing their life to other people, like feeling like they didn't make enough time for a relationship and they're regretting it. They are very capable of focusing on other goals in their life, making that calculated decision like, I want to become a lawyer or a doctor or something like that before I find the person I'm going to marry. I want to be all settled. I want to have high expectations of myself so that I can have high expectations of my partner. They do think like that a lot of times. But if they focus so much on these other goals, they can be like, oh crap, I didn't make time for a relationship. On the other hand, they could end up spending a lot of time focusing on their relationship and investing in that, and then feeling like they didn't make time to go to college and do other important things. And let me tell you, I personally feel like it is very devastating to have put the majority of your time, energy, and effort into a relationship, into one person, and then have that relationship not work out. Because it's kind of wasted time, and I can't really excuse it in any other way. I can't say, oh no, it was productive because blah, 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 because you learned something. No, I don't feel that way about it. So it is important to try to find that balance. Even if you're in a relationship, make time for other things. I would say that 18-year-old males with Venus and Libra are looking for a girl that they can impress. They want a stepping stone to help build their confidence for when they're in their 20s and dating. At around the age of 20, 21, they're probably looking for one-night stands. By age 26, I would say that they want an attractive trophy girlfriend, that they can feel proud of, like they accomplished something. They're still going to go for someone that they think is attainable, and they'll kind of ask themselves, okay, am I attractive enough for this person? Let's say I'm missing a leg or something, so let me try to find a girl that's missing an arm but is still really cute. And I don't think they start to think about settling down till around age 32. They start thinking about finding the wife or husband, I guess, for them, if they're gay by some chance. I didn't really consider gay guys with this placement, though, because I don't know any who are out of the closet and are male and have this placement. Or do I? Yeah, but that's when they start thinking about what kind of person they can spend their life with. Now, when it comes to dating someone with Venus and Libra, this is probably when they're going to have you actually meet their friends. They do have a bad habit of going through the motions with the courting process and not really having their heart invested in it. But oddly enough, when their heart is in it, they tend to not care about formalities as much, and it becomes more of a let's sit on the couch and eat potato chips in our underwear kind of thing. And then let's wake up one day and it's like, oops, we're married. But they need to feel like both of you guys have about the same amount of free time, are putting about the same amount of effort into it, and they might want it to be like, you pay for one date, I pay for the next, a back and forth like that. Or they might have some other kind of idea like, oh, well, I spend a lot of money on my hair and my nails, and I take a lot of time doing my makeup and shaving my legs. I make myself look as good as possible, so you should be able to take me out on expensive dates. But they always want it to be fair, and it's good if you're trying to date them to kind of try to go the extra mile and make it so that you're giving a little bit more than you're getting, because usually they will try to be very generous, and it's easy to kind of get things imbalanced and fall behind on the fairness scale, even though it might kind of seem like it's their fault because they're doing all these things and you didn't have time or money to do those same or similar things in return, but they still want you to find a way to keep it level. If it's not balanced, then you done fucked up, because Libra isn't actually good at balancing things. They're good at comparing things, but they want other people to keep it balanced for them because they're an inanimate object. They are the balance scales. They're not a person holding balance scales. They are balance scales, and they need you to be the person or the animal or the fish or whatever the heck zodiac sign you are. And they need you to put your water, your fire, your earth on like each side of the scale and keep it even. So when they are in love, I think it makes them kind of nervous because I feel like they worry they're going to lose their ability to reason, and they have to try that much harder to keep their head on their shoulders, and they're fighting and fighting and fighting to the point where they might actually become irrational because they're so worried that they're going to end up doing things just out of like impulse or emotion. So if they start being a crazy weirdo, then that might mean that they're in love. But if they were already a crazy weirdo to begin with and they're like that all the time, then don't read too much into their odd behavior. But I think in their panic, they might start considering other options. Like, maybe I shouldn't be focusing on a relationship so much. Maybe I should go to college instead. Or, you know, they might have maybe this isn't the right person for me. What if I make the wrong decision? Or just all kinds of weird paranoias. But when you get them to this point, you're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to be sane. And you're going to have to be understanding and I think aware of this, and don't take offense of it, because honestly it probably means they're in love, and it's nothing against you. It's just that love is scary, and they do become a little bit more of a romantic at this point. You know, dates might necessarily be as calculated. They might not be keeping up with like how much money is being spent as much, but they might want, you know, things like homemade meal with candles and flowers and things like that, things that don't necessarily cost money, but things that cost time, I think, become a lot more important to them at this stage. And before they got to this point, I think they were all worried that it would seem forced if you guys were to have like really classy romantic dates. Or they could have also been worried that it would be some kind of manipulation. Like it would seem that there's too much pressure and you're trying to force them to fall in love. But when you're at the point when you guys are already in love, that's when it's time to be romantic. And part of the reason for this is that they're not rushed anymore. You know, they were trying to go through the checklist before, making sure that neither one of you were wasting your time in the relationship, that no one was being taken advantage of, that you really are two people that are meant to be together and everything is fair and righteous. And now, when they're in love, they're ready to take their time more. And, you know, setting up the fancy plans for an engagement or a wedding or whatever step you're ready to take, and making sure it's as beautiful and harmonious as possible. It's something that's important to them and they enjoy it, but in a way it's also kind of stalling. Like, you know, this is just the time for us to enjoy what's happening and that we've gotten to this point. And there's no reason to rush it, because if we were rushing it, then that would probably mean that we're worried we're going to change our minds. And if we're going to change our minds, then we probably shouldn't do this at all. So they definitely don't like a rushed wedding or anything like that. If it gets to the point where they have to do that for some reason, then they will, but they'd rather be able to take their time. But remember, I did say that they can have some anxiety when they fall in love and everything like that. And my personal feelings on this is, if they're still at the point where they're having anxiety at the time of the wedding, then you should probably like slow down a little bit and like not go through with the wedding just yet, and like let yourself, or let them, if they're your partner, process everything and slow down. And I know probably a lot of people get nervous before their wedding, but Libra is a sign that likes to take its time. So I think you should honor this about yourself or about your partner. Now for compatibility. Venus in Aries with Venus in Libra has a very strong push-pull because Venus in Aries wants everything to take off right from the start. They want to be romantic right away. They want you guys to know what you want. And Venus in Libra is still over there deciding, and they're not ready for all of that yet. And they might want exactly the same thing in the future, but they need to go a lot slower. So this is something that can make the relationship very difficult if Venus in Aries is not patient with Venus in Libra. But I think it'll get better over time, and as long as Venus in Aries is patient and sees it through and doesn't take it as some kind of personal insult that Venus in Libra doesn't fall in love right away. Venus in Taurus with Venus in Libra. Both of you are ruled by Venus. Okay, but I do feel like you're going to have a lot of disagreements about the way things should go in a relationship. And I think Venus in Libra might think that Venus in Taurus is a little bit like chauvinistic or something. And then Venus in Taurus might feel like Venus in Libra has all of these arbitrary expectations and formalities that they want to follow. But if you look past that and you don't insult each other for your slight differences, you might end up realizing, hey, this is actually pretty cool, and it makes me feel a lot more fulfilled too, because we have the full spectrum of Venus here, like both sides, both signs of Venus. So it's kind of cool. Venus in Gemini with Venus in Libra will need something to actually bring them together, because they're both air and they can both be kind of like, uncertain, kind of coexisting, but not really crossing paths, not really deciding to like try and go out and date, because they're both just like, smelling each other from afar, getting a feel for each other, being like, do I want that? I don't know if I want that. Like, it seems like what I want, but I really don't know. They're both a little bit indecisive. So you're going to need something that kind of pushes you two together. It might be the kind of thing where you both are at a friend's wedding or something, and then someone else is like, hey, these two lonely motherfuckers, I'm going to force them to talk to each other. And the compatibility here is good, but there's likely to be a lot of arguments, more than anything just because you want to talk to each other and you want to hear each other's opinions and you want to discuss them, and it's almost like a way of expressing love. Venus in Cancer is likely to scare Venus in Libra and make them feel just a little bit pressured. You might feel like the relationship's unfair and they get a little bit too clingy, and then they start to close up once you start to open up, and it's kind of like this struggle for power. And they might feel like you're unwilling to give them what they want, and you plan to do it eventually, but it's just not the right time yet. So if they're patient, then you can have that like fairy tale romance that Venus in Cancer craves. Venus in Leo. Show-offy, arrogant, fucking full of themselves. You'll probably hate it the first time you meet them, but you'll also love it. And then you'll be like, dang it, why do I like them? And if they like you, they're going to try hard to impress you. And if you like them, you're going to go way out of your way for them as well and spoil them, and they're going to love that. Venus in Virgo with Venus in Libra. Both these signs are super analytical, so it's kind of difficult to get it to go anywhere, because you'll kind of be back and forth. Like one person's trying to analyze it, then the next person has to run it through their little checklist, and actually going on a date might not happen, and everything's gonna have to like line up perfectly, like, oh, we have the same IQs, we have the same income, we have the same level of desirability, we have good trust, and there's nothing weird making us paranoid about this. Like, all these things are gonna have to happen in order for you two to actually be able to start dating. And you're both capable of just losing interest before this really happens. But once you two get together, it was probably very, very well thought out. And, there's a chance that that can work out perfectly. Like, all the stars aligned, and it was amazing, and they lived happily ever after. But then there's also the chance, like, it makes so much sense, and it seems like it should be so perfect. And in scientific theory, it would be. But really, it's not, and you don't actually have feelings for each other. But it could be either way, it depends on a lot of factors. Venus and Virgo falls in love with their mind, and I think eventually Venus and Libra kind of does the same thing. They fall in love with their mind as well, but they have to like balance out a lot of things first before they'll even get to a point where they'll consider falling in love. Two Venus and Libra people together basically I feel like would just be everything I described in this video, but on a more extreme level, like amplify it times 2. Like there's 2 indecisive people, 2 people going over checklists and trying to like get everything to be ideal and optimal and balanced. So it's really going to be a lot of calculations involved here. Venus and Scorpio might be uncomfortable that Venus and Libra isn't in it as emotionally and doesn't seem to have like the unconditional love, and that Venus and Libra has love with judgments. That doesn't seem fair. But Venus and Scorpio is capable of acknowledging and remembering that that kind of thing is important and it shouldn't be overlooked, because a lot of times they will do that in a relationship. They'll just focus on how much they love someone and then not really the practicalities of the relationship. So that could be a good effect that you have on them. And then at the same time, they can teach you to remember to make sure your heart is actually in it. Venus in Sagittarius will likely seem like this really exciting, wild, vibrant, colorful butterfly to you, and you kind of want to go chase it. You kind of want to go catch it. It seems like it's like really cool and desirable. But you're going to have to use your wits to find a way to lure the butterfly in. And if the butterfly chooses to come and to stay, then it will. But you can't really force it. So that might make you a little bit nervous. Venus in Capricorn is likely to feel like you're never doing enough for them, and then you're also likely to feel like they're never doing enough for you. It's always going to be like, okay, but what are you doing for me? But what are you doing for me? Because you need to do something for me before I'll do something for you. Someone needs to come over and smack you and be like, okay, you two just both do things for each other. Just work hard, put the effort in the relationship, and you'll probably be all good. But if you're going to be stubborn little butts about it, then it might not work out too well. Venus in Aquarius with Venus in Libra. Lots of rules here. And we're having trouble deciding who is actually making the rules, because Venus and Libra is like, okay, I read the rules. This is what everyone else in the world told me the rules are. And then Venus and Aquarius is going to be like, no, I rewrote the rules and this is the way we're going to do it. And if you're like, that sounds better, I actually kind of like that, then things are probably going to work out. But if you don't like it, then Aquarius being a fixed sign, they're stubborn, they're stuck in their crazy, ridiculous, unusual, eccentric ways. And they're not going to change the way that they want to do things. So you guys have to agree on that. Venus and Pisces may not seem like it's worth your time. And I think what'll be scary about them is they can feel like there's like a deep soul level connection, and then they can just kind of swim off anyway. And you're like, excuse me, we're supposed to be investing our time in this. We're supposed to find a way to make this work. Like, why are you leaving? It doesn't make any sense to you. It doesn't seem as logical. And, you know, the fact that they don't seem logical and rational might be difficult for you to deal with. But I think this could be a relationship that's like The Notebook, and you end up not seeing each other, not being together for a long time, and then all of a sudden they swim back, and it's like, I personally wouldn't let someone do that. If you're gone, you are gone. Anyway, my name is Penny. I hope you liked the video. I have to go run another 1.5 miles because I'm supposed to be running 4 miles a day. I'm supposed to lose like 25 pounds or something, and I'm trying to do something, so I'm excited. I don't want to like be a loud mouth about it and announce it on here right away, but I am a very athletic person, so check the description below if you want to follow me on Facebook and Twitter and check out my website. I try to post information when I have time. I do offer readings if you want to check out what's available there. There's career readings, dream date readings, date check readings, which is only like $5. But basically, if you're about to go on a date with someone or perhaps meet someone in person, if you were talking to them online, and you want to know if it's like, oh shit, no, don't go out with that person, whatever you do, don't go out with that person, and you want me to look at their chart and tell you, I will do that, because to me, that is essential. I hate it if my friends risk their lives by going on a date without having me look at the person's chart first. Okay, so I never do it, and I don't think anyone else should do it either, but I know a lot of people don't really believe in astrology like I do. I like to talk and have conversations about what is going on in my life and how I relate it to astrology, and learning astrology and tarot in my group on Facebook. It's called Penny Astrology Group, and I will have the link to that in the description as well. So feel free to check all of that stuff out, join the group if you want, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys.